Oh, I think that's it. Because the boys are back in town.
The boys are back in town.
That's not how that goes.
No.
Dude, that was on that. I think that was on. Do you remember when we were younger and I had to go to some shady ass website and I ordered Eddie Murphy Delirious? Do you remember?
No.
Okay, that's when he's in the red. Have you seen that before?
I've seen Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, and I remember getting that because it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was old by the time we watched it, but still super awesome at the same time. Like it was, and I remember we watched that and, gosh, it was, we had to be like 21, 22 when that was going on. You don't remember that at all?
Was it? I don't think I watched it with you.
Yeah, it was. You may have, well, because I had to get it again. It was on like so you couldn't just get it on like Netflix or something, and you couldn't buy it from. I mean, you couldn't find it in a video store. I had to go to some shady website that I was super dubious about putting my
like
credit
5
card
viruses.
No, it was all legit at the end, but I was like, oh man, some freaking Russian oligarch
gambled it.
Rich me. Yeah, that's how he got his money. A Russian oligarch. They were just selling Eddie Murphy ripoffs. I did get it. So.
Delirious and Raw were both pretty solid. Raw was the name of one of his.
Yeah, Raw was the second one.
Okay.
That was good. Delirious was better. It was funny because I love one of his jokes. He's all talking about hooking up, and he's all hooking up. And I'm not gonna do the bit any justice, but he's talking about like, hooking up with girls nowadays is like playing Russian roulette. He's all, you heard that new age shit? I'm like, new.
Russian roulette.
But it was like early 80s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was. Oh no, not Russian roulette. It was like playing craps. Yeah, is what he was saying. Like it's always just a gamble.
New age shit.
I love new.
Yeah.
So damn, dude, a lot's happened since we last recorded.
I know. When was the last time we recorded?
It was back in October.
Before
ATSA. And I got kind of inspired when we had a listener that was at the office. That was I love how he thought that I was shorter than you.
Yeah, like significantly.
How is it? Did you notice though?
He's probably listening to this right now. So you tell.
So I just to let you know, I'm making Jeff sit in my chair that I used to sit in, and I got a new chair because I can't have this. I'm shorter than. Yeah. I can't have this discrepancy.
Thought you were a little person. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that's not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, dude.
That's went all right, huh?
Well, there was it was the first time that I was at I can confidently say first time I was at a conference where I was at a presentation and the room was totally full, right? And then at the end of the presentation, a girl stood up in the back and she said, you know what? I just have to say, I've been kind of disappointed in this whole conference, but this was the best presentation of the entire conference.
That's exactly what she said.
That was the first time I've ever heard that, but I can't remember whose pretation was that. Oh shit. Yeah. That was ours.
Oh, it was
that was ours. I totally forgot about that.
It came right back to you right at the right moment.
Yeah, no, that
was a hell of a compliment.
That was cool. That was really cool. And then, that line of people that wanted to talk afterwards.
People seemed legit interested in what we had to say.
Who were those two studs that sat in the front row? I can't remember their name. We went to that was the first presentation.
The ones that did Excitable Boys.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a title.
I went to that thinking it was going to be something completely different, but they were cool too.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite presentations, that one.
I've noticed like, did you notice that when we were picking the titles that we were going to, it had nothing to do, like we didn't read one abstract. We just Excitable Boys, sign me up.
The most.
Yeah, it was like daddy daughter incest. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Incels, send it.
Yeah. I was like, so now all you have to do is have a provocative title, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder if you're at a conference that focuses on like sex offender treatment, what would that be? You could say,
as far as a provocative title,
I mean, the possibilities. We would have to start rattling them off.
But the rabbit hole would. Yeah. Do you want them alphabetized? I mean, there's so many.
Yeah, they're endless. Although, hey, speaking of that incels guy, you know what?
Huh.
This is I have, I don't know if you call them gym woes. We can call them that, right? That's our,
well, I don't know what you're talking about.
When we have, just when I come in here and I complain about people at the gym and what they do, we should call them gym woes.
Yeah.
And I don't have any for this one, but I noticed a new thing at this conference that may have happened prior to this, but this one really got under my skin and I started noticing this.
The incel guy reminded you of this?
And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
So do you remember that guy? So at the beginning,
I know right where you're going.
He was a little soft spoken, but this was an epidemic throughout the conference.
You're about to do a public service announcement, aren't you?
So I'm just telling everybody. Okay. Yeah. Now, if you're attending a conference, all right. Remember that the speakers are up there and I get it. I totally understand. They should be prepared to present to an audience, right? I mean, you can't, I love it when speakers declare, I suck at public speaking. It's like, oh, well,
way to set yourself up for success.
Here we go. You know what I mean?
Tune right in.
Yeah. I always love that as a starting point. I'm like, damn it. But I will see though, sometimes I was even at least, I wasn't nervous when we started, but right before as the presentation before us, when we went down there and started prepping, I was a little nervous then, like coming up to it. But as soon as everybody got in there, I was fine. Yeah. I know you were a little bit nervous. I could tell.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. Your first slide. I'm like,
I about blacked out.
Will you talk, stupid?
Yeah. I rallied though.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. I was like, you've got to fix this.
Like everything went blank, dude. I legit, dude.
So awesome.
I almost just left in the middle of that first slide. I was like, Mason just got it. He's got it for me. I gotta get out of here.
I could have BS my way through a little bit of it.
Gotta leave.
What my point is that speakers are nervous regardless of how much they prepared.
Hell yeah.
and they gave us like microphones and everything. And, but here's what you don't get to do. Like you get to sit in the audience, you get to listen and everything else and pay attention, but don't everybody flood the back. Cause that's what they do. They all sit in the back. Right. And that's the only seats that they take up,
which is a choice they made.
That's a choice. That's a choice that you made.
Yeah.
And then you sit in the back and you do the, can't hear you. I can't hear you. I'm like, okay, hey.
Every conference we went to.
That's your problem.
Yeah.
That is your problem. And you need to move up. That's not Then, I mean
repeatedly though.
Yeah. I love like I was this close on. Then move!
Yeah.
Like I was, dude.
You might have got a standing ovation, at least by me. I would have clapped.
Yeah. I love to can't hear you. Can't hear me. Like, and how rude is that? You know what I mean? Like he's
middle of the dude trying to gather his thoughts, trying to present, trying to be captivating, anything, and just got this persistent chatter in the background.
And everybody in the back too. Everybody in front turns. What the, It's just a big mess. And I'm like, God, dude, like move up.
Sit up front.
And it was over and over and over.
Yeah.
And I mean, yes, speak up, of course. You know what I mean? You can't.
The gentleman was soft-spoken.
He was.
Yeah.
I got it. But there's things we can do. We can turn up his mic. We can do all kinds of things. But when you're like putting him on this, just chill for a second.
Him.
I know. God, dude. So yeah. Other than that,
that's a good public service.
Yeah, it was great. So So I thought, the other, I can't think. I mean, the conference is always kind of good. The other one I was thinking about was the AI one that they were talking about the use of AI.
The plenary?
Yes. I can't remember who presented on that. I probably should pull it up, but there was a presentation from a young lady. She presented on like the use of AI to produce like child sexual abuse material.
That's right.
And whatnot, which what I thought more than that though was like I wanted to raise my hand. You can't raise your hand during plenaries, but it'd have been nice to raise your hand and say, wait, how do they do? You know what I mean? Not because I like want to go do it. I'm just saying like,
well, what?
How do you use AI to do that? I mean, I understand that it can.
You give like ChatGPT programming prompts to do some like nasty shit.
No. I'm saying that you can't even, so what was I trying to we were joking around the other day and I tried to create an image of something.
Oh yeah.
And it was like, oh yeah. It was,
I remember.
I tried to create an image of, and I won't give the context, but I will tell you what the prompt. I put in a prompt that just said something like, create an image of a rabid dog that is injected with steroids and rabies, that's bleeding from the mouth with like a human hand in its mouth. And it wouldn't do it. It wouldn't do it. It was like, it said it violates the content policies. I was like, wait a minute, I can't.
Is it the rabies or the dog?
I can't create a mutant dog because I said steroids. Like,
yeah, is it the steroids?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I was like, how far could you get into a prompt for child sexual abuse before it's like, nah, dog?
It's got to be some off-label version of it, right? Like, there's no way it's like a one that's used for general public consumption. And I don't know what that would be, but it has to be. There's got to be programmers that could make AI, but for
dark GPT.
Yeah, dark GPT. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's got to be, because well, I haven't done much other than have Chat GPT create a few documents for me. So, and some of the pictures that you and I were messing with.
Yeah.
At that conference.
Dude, that thing's a dream come true when you're like, hey, write policy and procedure for this. And you're like, oh,
and
wow.
It's not bad.
Useless government stuff. Perfect.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, if you have to do anything sophisticated, it's pointless. But yeah, it's like, it'll get there though. But yeah, I was like, that's what I was wondering was how would you even do that? And I think the images she showed, obviously there wasn't any like, child pornography or child of sexual abuse images, but they had, it just showed kind of a girl, and then it told it to get younger and stuff. But I mean, she was clothed and everything. It's like, I guess, you know what I mean? It just seems like, there's just a lack of, I'd be curious to see what the process is for individuals who are doing that. I wanted to know a little bit more about that, of how that's being, done at this point. And it sounds like they're taking steps to stop it, obviously, which is good. I mean, that's why those type of things would stop if you were
to stop what specifically? Like,
well, like I said, if you're violating content policies, you couldn't just put in, like I said, if you get too violent, it'll just say no, I'll violate my content policies. So if you went too like sexual or anything, I don't even know if it can generate nude pictures of.
Well, I don't think so either. But I've been thinking about the whole CGI thing for years.
Oh, right.
And like, I know they'll do like, there's porn websites that will like take your favorite actor or actress and then like superimpose them.
Sure.
And doing like whatever. But I guess that's not AI, but I guess I would like to know that what, like, are they using like a normal standard AI format to like create the prompt and then using CGI to make it sexual?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a 2-part process.
Though, what I was afraid of, and I'm glad I didn't go in that direction, was I was worried because sometimes the presentations in that go in a weird way. I was worried that it was going to be like advocating for that. Like it's okay.
Sometimes that happens in those.
Well, right. So I was thinking, I know it's AI and like I know these images are fake. But hopefully this isn't going down the road of, well, nobody was actually harmed.
I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for that to come up.
What do you think about that? I don't like the idea of that.
I don't. So here's the thing. Like, obviously the initial reaction is disgust, and that's not a good thing. And if I have to make a determination, I'd say absolutely not. Here's a problem though, is like, I would be interested in knowing what the actual outcome would be. It's just that means that you'd have to then research that, and you'd have to have a control and an experiment group to where you were, I guess, allowing for people to have access to, computer generated child pornography.
Just seems inherently unethical.
Right.
And
here's the thing. So I agree, first off, and I'm first blush totally against it, but like, what if it did work? What if it did as morally
work and
if it I mean, I guess what would work mean, right? The rates of reoffense. I don't know. I would have to define what is the outcome we're talking about. Are we talking about just the person feels sexually satiated and so they don't end up acting out on it? I guess that's what it would be.
Or no, I didn't think about that. That was probably the concern for mine. I was thinking, so if you think about the production of child pornography, right, that has to come from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, typically a lot of the guys we worked with weren't really producing it ever.
Right.
They were more consumers and most of the time, for any listeners who don't know, like typically I'm not going to give you a blueprint on it, but you got to go on the dark web. You got to go to some type of torrent thing or whatever. And typically there's like an upload feature that you have to have, like a file sharing aspect of this. And even if you turn your upload speeds down to, I don't know, almost zero, you're still technically uploading material on the site because it's a file sharing thing. So,
yeah.
So they're also, like typically charged with distribution of, and then they plead down to you possession of child pornography.
Right.
But I would suspect that the production of actual, like, children being abused for the purposes of developing child pornography would be reduced because now you could just generate it. But you're saying also that the
consumer,
whoever's looking at that, and then obviously using that for purposes of masturbation, the actualization of that turning into a touch crime, that or a contact offense. You're saying the propensity for that might go down as well.
Maybe, and that because the thing is, I can argue out of both sides of my face, man. Like, I could say, kind of go the route of like, well, we've seen how many people go down that rabbit hole of looking at pretty tame pornography, and then the threshold for satiation increases to the point that they'll end up looking at some pretty wild shit eventually. We see that with our clients, and like the easy extension of that would be, they will end up that won't end up doing enough for them, and they'll end up acting on it or going for the real thing. But then again, what if it did? Like, what are the morals and ethics on that? Because if it worked, if there were a genuine decrease in recidivism, however that could be shown or researched, I don't even know how you research that ethically, but if you could hypothetically, like, does that make it okay, or is that still a bridge too far? Because like there isn't a victim being harmed if it's CGI, but is that all that matters? Is all that matters that there's a victim being harmed? I could argue that what we call harm extends out, like, in addition to a person being harmed, but I don't know where I line up on it, man.
Yeah. And it's one of those, it's like one of those, you'd never really be able to research it appropriately.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think, to me, when I think we're doing like an ABLE assessment for sexual interest, one of the things that jumps out to me is the danger registry that jumps up on there. And one of the things that talks about is, it asks about, do you still currently have sexual fantasies about, this is typically involving illegal sexual activity with children or minors, right? Adolescents or minors or whatever. And then that's kind of putting you into a moderate, danger category as far as that goes. But then it also asks, do you still like masturbate to those fantasies as well? And then that puts you now into the like higher risk category. And the way I kind of interpret that is that, well, if you're fantasizing about those things and then reinforcing that with masturbation, is that satiating, or is that reinforcing
right
a preoccupation that will build and build and build and build?
Probably reinforcing. Right.
That'd be my worry. And I don't think anybody is willing to take that risk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's, I don't think anybody has an appetite to tolerate any of that stuff either.
Right.
So it was nice.
It just exists in the hypothetical.
Right. Right. I mean, I don't even call it a cool thought experiment. It's I think if you were just intellectually honest about it and said, yeah, I mean, I kind of wonder if we were genuinely trying to reduce harm as it's defined, as and if you could say confidently, crystal ball, hey, the trade-off is we're going to let these guys stay at home, produce these images on AI, and then, have their way with them. And the trade-off is no more kids will be sexually abused, and these guys will never actualize that into a new offense. I think everybody would take that trade. However, that's not reality.
Right.
Like that's, and I think that people aren't willing to take that risk. I don't think I would be willing to take that risk either.
So yeah, and so you don't think that there will be an ATSA in the future at some point to where one of the presenters is taking that leap, huh?
Well, I'd like to see you get that through IRB approval.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah,
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I just don't see
that's true.
how that's possible. How that's even possible.
I don't think it would get off the ground.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah. Speaking of seeing, so, well, yeah. So this is these episodes always get some pretty good views because we always do some news updates.
Yeah,
we have two news updates here, and this one was we had I think our last one or 2 ones ago there was a it was a local one about the registry. Like they just, the Utah sex offender registry, like they just lost several guys that weren't on the registry, and they just dropped off. Yeah. The data wasn't updated or something. I mean, I assume they didn't lose them. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you lose anything, but so we were going to do an update on that. And then you had a P Diddy one.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
A Diddy.
Yeah. Jeff attended a freak off and,
boy, do I have some things to report.
He wanted to share some video from the freak off.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be wild.
Let's see if I share this, if it cuts off our recording. I'm hoping not. And no, we're good. Okay, beautiful. I love it. All right.
That update worked, huh?
Yep. Here we go.
A newly formed group is tackling issues related to people who commit sex crimes here in Utah.
The Sex Offense Management Board held its second public meeting today. On the agenda, the results of a recent KSL investigation into Utah's sex offender registry.
News specialist and KSL investigator Daniela Rivera reports.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Oh, there's Michelle.
It might look like just another public meeting at the Capitol, but
it is a really big step for this state.
Dr. Michelle Leslie says Utah is now one of a few states with a sex offense management board. She's the new board's director.
This is just a population that has kind of not so much pushed aside, but not really discussed or focused on until something potentially big happens.
Their goal is to make policy recommendations to the legislature and make sure everyone has a seat at the table, including both victims and those with convictions.
How can we improve and how can we continue to provide the best treatment possible for this population?
On today's agenda,
I actually saw it on ASL.
A recent KSL investigation revealing more than 100 convicted sex offenders missing from Utah's registry and prompting an internal audit by Utah's Department of Corrections.
When that came out, I did have some calls from 1 or 2 victims called me and they were concerned. And as prosecutors, we definitely talked about it.
Board members noted they've already created a subcommittee to look into issues with the registry. That subcommittee is also exploring a request from lawmakers to consider changes to how the registry works. Some legislators are interested in using risk assessments to help determine who's on the registry and for how long.
Is the current system that we have with the registry, is that the most appropriate with this population, or is something different a better way to go?
In addition to the issue raised by our report and questions about the future of the registry, the board is also looking into sex offense treatment here in Utah. If there's something you want.
All right. Dude, speaking of which, like, I was just going to say, as far as like, oh, come on, boy. As far as, kind of Michelle being in the driver's seat, don't you feel like, I don't know, just like good leadership's in place now?
She's the right person for that job.
Totally. Like she just, I mean, and they even kind of referenced that, like everybody has a seat at the table and there's a whole lot of voices and like, not dismissive or condescending. Like she just feels like people can get on board with what they're trying to accomplish. Like it's not divisive, you know what I mean?
Right. Or like hierarchical that, I mean, they're having, people that have been perpetrators.
Oh, right.
On the board. And, some of the heavy hitters in the state attend those meetings, but I feel like we are given every bit as much of an opportunity to be there as well. I think it just makes it easy for like the best ideas to rise to the top. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. It is kind of nice. I think those, some of those, it's just like any committee meetings. You've been part of
plenty
shaking baby committees.
Yeah.
It's like you can only accomplish so much as you can accomplish, you know what I mean? But at a certain point, like the leading voices kind of stick out and then they're open to a lot of the feedback that's in there. So I think things are moving in the right direction there, but so I don't know if did they say they found them?
No, looking into it. Yeah,
they're still lost.
They're still out there, lost in the wild. There's lost. What do you mean lost?
Yeah. I mean, well, I would assume that. It doesn't really specify like if they failed to register or if the registration system had a technical error as well. But I kind of looked that up to say, okay, well, how much of a big deal is that, right? How big of a deal is it? Because for those of you who don't know, like failure to register is a 3rd degree felony, and it's not a new sex offense. It's just a felony though, nevertheless. And most of the guys who do that will go back to prison for a period of time as a result of that. But the question is like, does that then lead to like new offenses? Because I mean, I don't know what would be just a logical assumption of, I have a guy, he's on the sex offender registry and he failed to register. What would be the next step? But so now he's going to.
Well, I mean, as a therapist that kind of knows this stuff, like I don't think that it's going to be a predictor for sexual recidivism necessarily.
What would like John Q. Citizen think though?
Oh, they'd think for sure. It's like, oh, he's not registering. He's up to something.
Right.
Or,
up to no good, no matter what. Right. Well, because otherwise, why isn't he registering?
That'd be right. I think that's John Q's line of, that's Susie Q's line of thinking.
Oh, Susie Q.
Susie, always up to something, huh?
So I pulled up this article. This is kind of I like this title too. Failure to register is a predictor of sex offense recidivism. The big bad wolf or a red herring. And this was by Kristen. How do you say that last name? Zagolba?
You probably don't say the Z. Probably Golba. I have no idea.
With a silent
Highland Z.
A Highland Z?
A Highland Z.
Okay.
Yeah.
A Highland Z.
I'll go with the next name. Jill Evanson.
Jill Evanson.
That
that one's way easier.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I pulled out a couple of things on this. So as I went through, it's kind of like the failure to register. So there's an assumption of risk with failure to register, and basically sex offender registration notification laws impose severe penalties on those who fail to register. As I said, 3rd degree felony. And that suggests that not registering might indicate a higher risk to public safety. Studies support that general antisocial behavior and poor self-control often predict both sexual and non-sexual reoffending, but it's unclear if failure to register directly indicates sexual risk or just general rule-breaking tendencies. So in other words, the failure to register is more of a symptom of like antisociality, not necessarily like,
Sure,
I'm going to fail to register so I can go do criminal stuff. It's more so that's a rule that I think is stupid, and I don't like, and I'm not going to follow rules that I think are dumb. So I'm just not going to follow it.
you know, this happens often, right? Failure to registers. And sometimes, again, I think maybe due to people having a misunderstanding of what the implications of not registering are, is that clients that will have completed sex offense treatment, 2-3 years later will not register. They'll get charged. And then more and more we've been seeing they get referred to complete treatment again with nothing more than a failure to register and having to redo all of sex offense specific treatment. And so I've got a couple of those guys on my caseload right now. And for both of them, they're just like, I'm an idiot. I completely spaced it. Again, I don't know how you space something that has that big of implications on it, but
right. And isn't it like on your birthday too?
Yeah. Yeah. And like every 6 months, like your birthday, and then whatever the 6 month is.
Oh, that's right. It's every 6 months. Okay.
And so, yeah, there's going to be the guys that are like, screw the law. I'm not, this is a dumb rule, but there really are just some people that are just wildly irresponsible, just absent-minded. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's been some studies on failure to register and sexual recidivism, which are actually, I mean, they should give you a little bit of comfort. There's a few, one out of Washington State, and they did an analysis of 12,000 offenders and found that those who failed to register had slightly higher rates of reoffending sexually, 4.3%, than those who complied, 2.8%, though both rates were low. So that's, I mean, pretty low in general, 4.3%. I mean,
it's double.
And I know you can say, yeah,
devil's advocate.
It is double, but 4.3% out of, what is it, 100%? Is that right? I mean, it's still relatively low, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that
it's only 2% more, huh, Mace?
So if you look at that relatively, you can say recidivism increased by 100%.
That's how they put it.
I know, but that's not an accurate. In Minnesota, they did one. Failure to register was common among released sex offenders, but it did not predict sexual or general recidivism. However, those who failed once were more likely to fail again, suggesting it indicates a pattern of noncompliance more than a risk for new sex offenses. So again,
that's just, buy that.
Yeah, either absent-minded. I don't know how many times you could be absent-minded, though.
Eventually, it's noncompliance.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It could have a one whoopsie. Even, I mean, it's weird. I know if I had something of that magnitude hanging on my shoulders, like that shit would be circled on my calendar, man.
Oh, right. Right. I mean, like, speaking of registration, do you ever forget to register your vehicle?
No. Yeah.
I mean, and that's just your vehicle. You don't, you get a ticket maybe, you know what I mean?
Right.
And that's serious enough that I'm like, oh geez, I have to register this month. I'm like, damn, when am I going to find time?
Exactly.
And then the South Carolina study, nearly 3,000 offenders found no significant difference in sexual recidivism between those who registered and those who didn't, suggesting that failure to register relates more to rule breaking. So again, and the one thing, this doesn't always mean that the offender has gone missing. It's in the article here. Some may be accounted for, but fail to meet specific registry rules like updating their address. So sometimes I know in the registry you have to update everything, and sometimes they just don't. Again, it's not as intuitive as you might think it is, and user friendly for them to update all those things, because you're actually supposed to update everything. Social media, and think what a pain that is. I mean, shit. When I get a new computer, I'm like, God, I don't even want to start over and do all this stuff. Yeah, and I'm not like. And I got it. They should have thought about that. Okay, I got it. Yeah. I understand that is the burden they bear, but it's not. Sometimes I think I just update my address and then think about this. So sometimes they'll move, right? Because guys will just get a new job and then they upgrade, or their lease comes up and then they don't go update their registry. So now they're out of compliance because they don't have to register for 3 months, because that's when their 6 month or their birthday is. But in the midst of that, they've already moved and they should have updated it. See what I'm saying? Right. So sometimes it's stuff like that comes into it. Good point. Challenges with this is just last piece on this. I mean, there's sometimes really complex registration laws, and those updates, that's kind of what I'm saying. They can lead to unintentional non-compliance. Like they want to comply, but unintentionally they didn't. So they're not necessarily missing, but I have seen it too, where have you ever had a guy have to register on 2 different types of registries because he's federal? So he has a federal registry and then he has a state registry. And I've had guys like not be able to register on the federal side. And they've told me and they've told their PO about it. And then I've communicated with the PO and been like, hey, do you know about this? He's like, yeah, we know about that. He went down to the courthouse, but this, that, or the other happened. And so he couldn't, do this. And he's like, so I told him just, so the PO knows about this. Technically he's not he's not compliant because he attempted to go down there and there was just something wrong with it. And then one of my guys went down there and the registration officer that was at the federal place, like read them the riot act because they were out of compliance. And I'm like, he did everything he was supposed to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's not on him necessarily. I don't know what else he could have done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then there's like, if you do this again, I'm violating you, sending you back to prison. I'm like, what the hell? Do what? Come down here and not be able to do it?
That's wild.
Yeah. And then also like the homelessness guys, the homeless dudes who we deal with, a lot of guys are living in, because it's difficult to find stable housing because of their status, and finding a house sometimes because of residency restrictions, it just makes compliance difficult. So I guess what I'm saying from those things and from this research, a lot of this was, saying, well, what we do know is that the studies indicate that doesn't spell that these guys are about to go reoffend, right? And there may be a perfectly reasonable explanation as to why they're missing on the registry. Not like, well, we lost them,
that would probably, whatever the reason is, again, just a technical glitch, whatever it is, it'd probably be good to release that so people don't mistakenly. I mean, you and I are joking about they've gone missing, but I could see some people like thinking, who knows where they are? They could be anywhere. They could be behind you right now.
Yeah. Which I always think about that. Like I was like, what do you have pictured in your head? Like the zombies on World War Z? There's
the fast ones.
Like, geez, dude. But I get it. And Jeff and I are speaking from a position of, we know a little bit more than the average person. So that's all I'm saying is, if you know some of these things, which maybe some people don't want to hear, but it is, I think there's a lot of guys who are attempting to stay compliant. They want to stay compliant. I've had guys be like, oh, no, I'm fine with it. It, is a good opportunity for everybody to see that I'm following the rules and that I can be trusted again. That's a good take on it. But sometimes there's just complexities that get in the way of that. So just because they're missing doesn't mean they're like missing, So
well put.
Okay. What's this P. Diddy thing? Am I going to get...
You're going to get a virus. Yeah.
Okay. Let's watch this and then you explain it to me. And then we'll
all right.
Then we'll take it from there.
We're back with an exclusive update on the federal case against rapper Sean Diddy Combs. NBC News has learned that a federal grand jury in the Southern District of New York is expected to hear new testimony today.
Combs' legal team did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges of racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. He's being held at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center.
NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Malas joins us with more on her reporting here. Chloe, good morning. Good to have you with us. So what can you tell us about the testimony expected today?
So NBC News actually spoke to the attorney for this male who's going to be testifying this afternoon around 3 p.m. in front of a grand jury. Her name is Ariel Mitchell. She has represented other civil accusers. And this is incredibly significant because I was at the last hearing for Combs in downtown Manhattan, and I listened to Emily Johnson, one of the U.S. attorneys, one of the prosecutors who is trying this case, say that there might be another indictment. So this just goes to show you that federal prosecutors, that criminal investigation is ongoing. Now, it's unclear what this man will be saying. Remember, grand juries are secret. You're not supposed to know the date and when the grand juries are convening, but obviously we have this great reporting and we know that a male is going to be testifying this afternoon, and it's unclear if there will be more charges coming. And like you said, Diddy's legal team, they haven't responded because they can't comment on grand jury proceedings, and the U.S. Attorney's Office hasn't said anything either.
So that's the latest on the criminal side. There's also some civil issues here. Combs faces more than a dozen civil lawsuits. The most recent was filed on Monday. Only one has been settled so far. What's the timeline looking like for for these civil cases?
So he has been coming out denying all the accusations against him, both criminal and civil, and he has been fighting them. As we know, he settled with Cassandra Cassie Ventura, his ex-girlfriend, last year for an undisclosed amount of money that was reported to be in the tens of millions of dollars. But I do want to point out something that's really interesting. Last night, a ruling came down from a U.S. district judge in New York stating that one of the civil accusers, a woman who remains anonymous, she goes by Jane Doe, in this civil suit filed by Tony Busby. He's the attorney out of Texas that has filed several lawsuits against Diddy. The judge ruled that this woman had to reveal her identity, or in a few weeks, she's actually going to dismiss this entire case. And this is incredibly significant because could that mean that other civil accusers will face the same fate and have to come forward? The judge said that the idea that she needed to remain anonymous because she was afraid of Combs potentially hurting her or threatening her seemed unlikely because he's currently behind bars awaiting trial. They also said that, yes, in the ruling, the judge said, yes, it's humiliating. It's hard to come forward and to put your name out there, but that does not outweigh the reasons for you having to come forward and put your name to it. So we've reached out to Combs' legal team for comment. This is a win for them. They haven't said anything. I've also reached out to Tony Busby, who filed this suit, and he was the one that filed those new lawsuits, Joe, on Monday. So again, it'll be interesting to see if this affects these civil cases. And again, Combs is expected to go to trial on May 5th. So it's going to be interesting to see, though, if things are going to get pushed back, or could this extend the length of the trial if there is another criminal indictment?
Yeah, and that's that criminal trial. And you do think that that will stay on track for May?
So according to both sides, they believe that this is going to take place on May 5th. But if there are more criminal charges, it could mean that about a 2.5, 3 week trial could extend to even longer. So you could see this going on for quite some time.
All right, Chloe, thank you so much.
All right, so
I don't want to hear from you people.
Get that guy off my screen.
Get out of here, dude. Who are you?
Get out.
Can I just say one thing? Like, what is with the artist renditions of what's happening in courts? Have those ever been good? They look like they've been drawn by a fifth grader.
That's funny, dude. I've had that same thought before.
I always think to myself, I'm like, so do you just hire some mediocre artists? That's what you put it in the yeah. It looks like
the Indeed advertisement.
Yeah, I guarantee, I know fifth graders that can draw.
Looking
that good.
for artists of questionable skill.
Yeah, they come in there and do just a mediocre job. That's good enough.
Yeah.
I'm like, and what's that used for? Like, what is that?
What is that? Yeah. Is it for this exact purpose?
Well, okay.
What else is it used for?
Well,
than this?
So I know sometimes cameras are not allowed in there, and obviously cameras are not allowed in there because otherwise people would be watching it on court TV, right? But I'm just saying, like, I kind of feel like you take some artistic liberties when did you see that one chick in the jury box? She go, like, what? I was like,
I don't think she made that face.
I feel like you made that worse than it actually was. Yeah. And if I don't know, maybe we don't have, a HD camera in there, but a Polaroid would do way better than that. Like, you know what I mean? One of those twist up, snap, and I have to take it to I just feel like, yes, cameras is fine. You can't have cameras in there like recording. But that seems like a loophole. Just take a snapshot. That's all you need to do.
That's one of those things that I don't know that I've ever even really had that thought out loud about how shitty those are typically until you said it. But
never never. Like, I'd be embarrassed if that was this is all I can do, Jim.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can't show this on TV.
Yeah. That's I will say though, dude, these artists, especially when it comes to music, like these artists, it's tough because like Michael Jackson, like that was, think about, did he ever go to trial for any of that stuff? I can't remember. I
don't remember.
I'll bet it would boil down to like, Mr. Jackson, we know we have X amount of, youth that you allegedly sexually abused, but there's nothing better. Like the judge would just be so enamored with the music. He'd be like, what? You're off the hook. You know what I mean? Because that, I don't know, that No Way Out album from Diddy was fire when it first came out, dude.
Man, it reminds me of high school. It transports me right back.
Dude, it came out, what, freshman, sophomore year?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That was like, anyway, what was you, Tell me about why bringing that one up.
All right. Well, first off, I have a suggestion for you and the listeners. Is I don't know when the last time you watched Get Him to the Greek happened to be.
I watched it once and I forget even what it's about.
Okay. Watch it again and pay attention to the character that Diddy plays. He plays a music producer named Sergio.
Okay.
And if all of this stuff, again, big if, he hasn't been convicted, if all this stuff ends up being true, like I think he didn't have a script. I think they just had him play himself. They just turned the camera on. It is uncanny. The kind of the megalomaniacal, like big energy, commanding and controlling of people, full on like lecherous type of attitude. It's pretty wild.
Have you seen Made with Jon Favreau and Vince Vaughn?
No.
You've never seen that movie?
I don't think so.
Oh, dude. Now I watched that not too long ago, and that has P. Diddy in it too. And he's a gangster in that too.
Yeah.
So like he's kind of like that, but he's not I don't think he's a music producer at all. But in Get Him to the Greek, does it allude to like, I don't know, anything like freak offs or anything like that? Or is it just like his attitude in general?
Just his attitude in general.
Yeah.
And there's like scenes in there that like I probably shouldn't say on air, but yeah, his interactions with Jonah Hill.
Yeah.
And that watch it again. Just like watch Sergio, his character is Sergio. Watch it again. It's like, oh damn, he just played himself. They just had him talk.
You know what's weird about this? And I don't know if it's like with the Bill Cosby thing, right? Like it's one of those, everybody kind of knew it was happening, but then I don't think
that's where I was kind of going with this.
It's tough because it's like I don't think it falls in the snitches get stitches category, but it certainly is. I wondered where your responsibility begins and ends. You know, if you know, I mean, you can allude to it, but you don't know, and if you don't know, then you worry because if you bring it up, then there's enough power on that other end that they'll just destroy your career, right? If you're in entertainment industry, like show business at all.
Or life, if you believe the rumors about Tupac.
Right. And then, but if you know, then you were there. And if you were there, now you're implicated. It kind of seems like if the stories are true, right? You would have been there and then one way or another, you'd be implicated because of what happened at one of those things, which kind of seems like if the stories are true about Jeffrey Epstein, that was kind of the playbook, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about this, and you know that you just mentioned some of the guys I was thinking about, like Cosby, Epstein.
Yeah.
You know, Michael Jackson, if he did it. I know that's maybe not. R. Kelly. And so there's these people, some of them larger than life. I mean, like Diddy's larger than life in some ways, you know, Puffy, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, and there's like Brother Love or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And they, like just these like characters. Oh, and even in the news report we were just watching, you know, they said Sean Combs, but they also called him Diddy multiple times. It almost had like I mean, that was professionally done reporting, but it still kind of had a bit of a TMZ feel to it.
Sure.
And I think that like, so I've obviously never had somebody of like that social standing on my caseload, but I did have a professional athlete at one point that got convicted of a sex offense, and I worked with him for a bit, and he talked about like his pride and also his like almost like unspoken level of access to women, and just kind of being able to do whatever, and that they were okay with it. And, you know, and now he would talk, he's like, well, in hindsight, I guess I can't say for sure if they were okay with it. I just did what I wanted. And you know, and
was that that status, which is, I mean, that's like a termite compared to P. Diddy,
definitely.
Right? But was that status and the amenities that came along with it, was that part of his offense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cause that's what I wonder. Like, I mean, you know, I think this is part of, because I've never worked with anybody that's like, I've worked with dudes who've been to like swinger parties, but that's not the same thing, you know, and it was allegedly all consensual.
Yeah, freak offs are a whole new level.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. And maybe I'm just a prude, which is weird to think about, but I don't know where you cross a threshold where like something like that becomes, you know, like all the allegations of baby oil and
orgies,
dildos and all the rest of it. Like where I don't know, like old run of the mill standard stuff seems sufficient. You know what I mean? Where does those things start to be like, yeah, this is what I now need, you know, like a freak off, like, wait.
Well, do you think that could be like the kind of the concept we were talking about with the CGI child pornography, whether or not it reaches that satiation threshold? I mean, is like, if you have a certain personality type and you give him millions of dollars, prestige and access, like, because like, here's the thing is like, how do you even study this? How do you even research this? There's only so many people that have offenses like that are of that standard. So it's like, there's got to be certain personality types, and maybe you could find some, you know, a through line. Yeah. You do a qualitative thematic coding review. Yeah. I mean, yeah. But like we've seen, so like there's kind of I remember when I first started in this field, you know, well, I came into it with sort of the idea that all sex offenses were about power and control, because that's what I was told. Sure. And what I've figured out from doing this for a living is that like, that's a slice of the pie sometimes, but not always. There's a lot of other motivations to commit offenses. But like what I have found is that power and control and also secrecy really work hand in hand in creating some terrible shit for people. And it's that, you know, like the secrecy, of course, allows it to thrive. And then if you have somebody with power, and, you know, like power in the traditional sense with clients of ours, it's usually like familial power. It's, you know, like a father or an uncle, or, you know, a church leader or a Boy Scout coach, something like that. It's not freaking a multi-millionaire, world famous celebrity that has connections to gangs and is rumored to have taken out other famous rappers. I mean, like, damn, dude. This is where I'd say, I don't know if there is a satiation point, because if you're going there, like it turns into, I mean, okay, so sure, you know, I guess you get into, you know, okay, you know, I went to a swingers party. Okay. Not I went, I'm just giving levels. And then, we had a threesome. Okay. And then we got into an orgy. Okay. And then like a freak off sounds like, you know, I mean, anything goes, and all, you know, in terms of like, there's no such thing as heterosexuality, homosexuality. It's just go to town, baby oil abound. You know what I mean? It's like, and I'm like, okay, well, so how do you get there? Like, I know if somebody invited me to that party, I confidently can say I would not go. Like, I'd be like, what if you didn't know what it was? You show up, just walk out. It'd be real easy. Yeah. You think you're going to maybe catch like a performance, or like maybe they'll do a song. Yeah. I mean, oh, it's this. I mean, it would just be, to me, it just seems like, yeah, you'd have to be in some pretty like high end circles to even be invited to something like that. Right. And then you know, it would be, you know, there would be like a point of no return. There would have to be, because if you were about to see some shit, it would be like, oh, no. Now you're going to partake. Well, that's where the secrecy comes in, that out of self-interest. It's like, shit, I'm in for a penny and for a pound. Mutually assured destruction as far as exactly those things go. It is. But that's what I'm saying is, okay, then I think there's no satiation point, because it's like, if you've elevated from just run of the mill, whatever, and it's not like as if P. Diddy couldn't just hook up with anybody, of course. Right? Yeah. He could. So then if that's his only motivation or whatever, you know, then it's like, well, and then you look at his, like, his wife's been with J-Lo, all the rest of it. It's like, I'm just saying, I don't think the traditional reinforcers of, you know, of sexuality and sex drive and, you know, I don't think those apply anymore. And that's why the satiation thing, I'm like, oh, so that's the peak. I don't know if that. So you applies. Don't think that that's even the variable? I think I just think it keeps going. What is it that's driving it then? Is it just control, power, like just a unquenchable thirst to dominate? No, I mean, I don't know if it's
I mean, I don't know. Maybe a mixture of all of those things. You know what I mean? I think preoccupation, reinforcement, and then I guess not satiation. I would say I just get desensitized to it, and then I need a new level to, so it's kind of like, I mean, you've heard the term chasing the dragon with heroin, right? It's like that, but on the sexual side of things, like, and where there is no end point except for going to prison. Like that's the only end point with that. Heroin, it's overdose and death. And this, it's one of those compulsions that, will always.
You think it's compulsion?
Yeah. And it'll continue to build one on the other to the point where it gets out of control, which it obviously did, and now look at all and homeboy's going to go to prison forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
you would think.
I would think so. What I'm curious to see is, and this is like everybody else thinks too, is who else is going to be implicated in it? Because I've heard some crazy names.
Heard some crazy things.
Like Usher, and who's
Justin Bieber, J-Lo.
He sounds like a victim.
J-Lo. I know.
Yeah. What's Kevin Hart? I mean,
and
all these are allegations. So who knows?
Right,
it's just, and sometimes it's just
really
sensational. I hope not on all those counts. Yeah. But that would really suck if that started to come down. You know what I mean? Wouldn't trust anybody anymore.
Yeah.
So. Well, there's the news, folks. Yeah. It's a horrible world we live in.
Yeah, everything sucks. We'll see you next week.
Okay, so, so if you learned anything from this, hey, stop telling people to speak up and get some new artists for the courtroom. Jesus. Okay, we don't have anything else to say, do we?
No, that's it.
All right, good to be back. We'll see you guys soon.